rolling.
Paul, you have no idea how excited I am to have you here.
Oh, well, thanks.
I've heard of you probably since the first week I moved to Montreal. You are the most legendary punk that I actually know. That I can say I know. I've met others, but that I know, that I've shook hands with in the past, that I've done a show with, that I've hung out with.
Oh, cool.
Paul, I'm so happy to have you here. Really, when I say a legend, the reason I say a legend is because in my mind, anybody that starts playing music in the 80s and now we're 2019 and you just got back from doing a show last night,
Yep.
You are a legend, sir.
Yeah, well, it's still fun.
Well, it has to
Yep.
be.
Yep.
You know, you're not going to do it that long if it isn't.
Yeah, we ain't making money, so you got to have fun.
Right. My first question for you, and I'm not too much of a question-answer kind of guy, but when
That's
I say
okay. I work better with answers to questions, so there you go.
But I mean, you started in the 80s. Am I correct even thinking that?
1980, yeah.
1980,
Yeah.
like this, almost 70s.
Yeah, it's like post 70s, I'd say. So I actually started writing songs in the 70s, but then we started the band in the 80s.
Okay. How old were you about at that point?
Well, it's funny because when we started the band, I was 18, and I thought I was too old to start a band. So, 40 years later, here we are.
Yeah, man, that's wild. 40 years later. Cheers to that, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I know you rock, I was going to say as hard, but probably harder now than back then.
Well, I think maybe it's a little easier because we kind of like not worried about tripping over things as much as I was when I started out. So now it's like, oh yeah, now you just like actually sing the songs and play the guitar.
Were the Ripcordz your first band ever?
Yep.
It was, eh? Yeah.
Well, we started. I mean, but it was really different when we started. We were just basically played basements for like 5 years, and we started out. I think what do we call ourselves? We call ourselves Parental Guidance, which was too boring, and then we were Johnny Drughead and the Running Dogs of Imperialism, which was too long, and then
They're kind of cool, actually.
yeah, I kind of like that
Yeah,
one,
man.
but then there was a reggae artist called Johnny Drughead too, so we couldn't do that, and then the Ripcordz just seemed to fit.
Yeah.
And we started with like I think 6 people. We had a lead guitarist, we had a different singer, we had a keyboardist, and then. It's one of those band things. Nobody ever came to practice.
It was the end of the 70s, start of the 80s, though. I'm not really surprised, I mean, back then, everything had to have keyboards. It's like, oh, your band's great. Now, once we get the keys on it, right?
Yeah. You guys will really make it once you get the guitar.
Yeah, man, exactly. That's wild, though. Was that in Montreal?
Yep. It's actually the only reason we really started a band was because, I mean, I've been writing songs and literally I was like writing them whenever I sort of felt something. So I'd be in the metro and like we get these transfers that were like about this long and paper.
Right,
and I'd be writing lyrics on these like as I was going along.
Do you still have any of those?
No.
Too bad.
What I do have is I have like I have these Star Wars notebooks that would probably be worth a ton if I hadn't actually written in them now. But anyway, they're Star Wars notebooks where I actually wrote all the lyrics. So I've got literally all the lyrics to all my songs.
You're probably one of the only
original
people that I could say actually took a Star Wars product and made it like cooler. You can't say that to everybody,
Yeah, it's true. I'll go with that. I'll go with cooler.
So songwriting, I'm somebody myself who has always been writing songs since a young age. My biggest question to ask any songwriter, right? Lyrics first or music first?
I'd say mostly music first, but it is kind of one of those inspirational things. Like, I went through a time when I was kind of homeless, so at that point in time, I was literally writing songs in my head.
Yeah.
And I had all the lyrics and all the music in my head, and I wouldn't even know the chords. And then I'd get somewhere and I'd actually write them all out and put it all together. But most of the time it's kind of like I get inspired by different things, and quite often nowadays the inspiration is quite often movies or television. Like here's let's face it, they pay these guys like amazing amounts of money to put movie soundtracks and stuff together, and they do something. I'm like, and it's usually not a melody. Usually it's like they got this really cool break thing they do there, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try and like do a punk version of that and see how it fits in. And usually by the time I finish writing the song, the thing that inspired me doesn't exist anymore.
Right,
But
right.
you know,
It
but
becomes something else along the way, right?
Yeah.
But isn't that the cool thing once you put pen to paper? You know, at least when it comes to lyrics, sometimes I start off with what I think is a concrete idea. By the second like line, I'm already somewhere else. You know, it's kind of some like I definitely have two styles of writing. Sometimes where I literally force myself to write about something. But then other times it's just like let it flow and see where it goes.
See, I've tried that before. I've had concepts, and I tried, like, I had like an idea. Like every song I write nowadays, I kind of think of having a video with it.
Yeah.
Even though we don't do videos. Well, I mean, we
Yeah,
do
you
live.
really don't have a lot. I checked
do
it up. And I
live
think you have
videos.
like 7 or 8 videos, and that's
Yeah.
over 40 years. Okay.
And we're like, and those are like, most of them are kind of live concept videos.
Yeah.
Like we don't do any concept videos. But when I write a song, I think of it visually.
Yeah.
I think of the song visually and how it's going to work, and we have songs like, we have a song called Norm Next Door, and it's about a guy who goes and shoots up his high school. But it's like I got this whole story in my head of he's like the big football jock, and like the song's being written by the goth kid next door, and he's like, you would, if you were looking at this, you would think, okay, it's the goth kid who's going to go into school and blow it up, and then. But he's going to head into school one day and he hears sirens, and it's actually the football player next door who shot up the school. And
So it's not rock and roll high school
Yeah.
anymore, it's jock and roll high school.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, but like I'm always thinking about these scenarios, and that's kind of how I write a lot of the songs.
Yeah, that makes sense. I know what you mean about movies. For some reasons, when I'm watching a movie, I don't know if it's because like when you're watching a movie, you're kind of in a state of zen and kind of getting into it. My mind tends to wander. But I know you have song titles based on movies quite a bit, or characters from movies. Like Elvira being one of them that jumped out on me. You know.
Well, it's and I again I write songs, and like one of the songs I got is in our most recent album was called Proud to Be, and it's kind of like our Oi style, but it's like, proud to be part of a community that screams diversity. It's kind of like it's taking some of the old tropes and actually putting them on their head, especially the Nazi skinhead tropes.
Right.
But at some point in time I had like a lyric in the chorus that just kept on getting repeated. But then I watched Gladiator.
Yeah.
And whenever they said hello or goodbye, it was like strength and honor.
Yeah.
So like strength and honor rules the day, and so I put that in the song.
Awesome.
It's just like, hey, that's a kind of a cool way to.
Yeah.
And it sounds very good skinheadish. So I'm like, okay, strength and honor. That's
the whole
good way to go.
skinhead thing. It's such an issue, especially depending on who you're talking to, right? Like if I go into my professional world, and somebody even mentions skinhead right away, they're like, oh, the Nazis are coming.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we had a big talk about it, even in the band, because we play ska, and the Fred Perry looks and stuff like this, and it always comes back. The Proud Boys tried to steal that look as well, and like it's that whole appropriation of look thing thing that comes back in haunts you. It's like we had a big debate. Part of your brain is like, fuck those guys, man. I'm not gonna let them take what's ours. But then on the other hand, you're dealing with general public right now that might not have a clue of the history behind it and what it actually is. But are you really going to sit there and educate everybody too? That's a lot of energy to educate a bunch of dummies,
Well, I find that, there is a bit of that, but I've also found over the years that anybody who is in the least bit affected by it, if you're minorities or if you're Jewish or something, the good skinheads and the bad skinheads, and that probably there are bad skinheads out there, but probably it's the good skinheads who are beating them up and keeping them away. So, and when it comes to like the general public, I try and, because I've got the skinhead look,
Right. That's called aging, right? I'm getting there too, man.
Well, I've been doing this since 1980, so, but it's one of those things where you look at the general public, and now it's like, oh well, they don't like Antifa, and they're using all these stereotypes to describe anybody who's in the anti-fascist movement. It's called Antifa for a reason. They should probably just call themselves anti-fascists. That would probably go better. But all this stuff is like, what if and that's why we call them the norms. If the norms don't understand, the norms don't understand. I'm not going to try and educate them on it. If they want to come into our little world, then that's okay. And if they talk to me, you know, when I'm on stage, when I do anything else in life, I tend to try and, you know, tell a lot of jokes and, you know, be friendly and smile a lot. Especially, like, you know, we just played 2 shows last night. You know, you're on stage, and, you know, I'm pretty much yelling for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And when you yell, you look angry because you're yelling tunefully.
Yes.
But, you know, it's so I always want to, like, make sure that people know I'm not angry all the time. So I try and tell jokes and stories and stuff in between songs, and I do the same thing, you know, out in the real world. And I get paid as a political commentator sometimes. You know, I look like me.
Yeah.
And I'm being a political commentator. I just,
you know, that's interesting. I did want to ask you about it because I don't know your entire life or anything like that, but I am aware that you had a lot to do with news and producing news, if I'm not mistaken, maybe with the CBC.
Yeah, well, actually,
Yeah.
Well, actually,
he steals the show all the time.
I know. He's a very happy dog. It looks like he'll keep you very warm in the winter time too. So well, I mean, I used to actually produce the 6 o'clock news for CBC and Global for like 15 years in Montreal.
Wow. Those are some credentials there right there.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
And you know, I've actually had a lot of jobs like that. Worked for CTV as well. And my one negotiation when I get to a job place is no dress code.
Yeah.
I don't care about vacation. I don't care about salary. No dress code.
Is that your only negotiation, or
my only negotiation?
I bet you have one that you forgot. Being a touring musician.
Oh well, see, that's I just work hard. Because that would be that was my summer vacation. Like I get 3 weeks of holiday. I'd work all the stat holidays in the rest of the year, so I get another week put together from that. And that would be my summer vacation. You know, 28 shows in 28 days.
Yeah, well, that's it. Right? That's the Canadian tour. It's always 28 to 32, right?
Yeah,
every single one, man.
And you're going across. You know, for vacation starts with a 978 kilometer drive to Sault Ste. Marie.
Yeah, man. Now, what in the world got you into news and producing news?
Well, I kind of just that's always what I've been in is journalism, and I just, you know, I was for like 15 years. When I was, oh God, there's so many anecdotes on this one, but when I was in university, I was a journalism student, and then I joined the Students Association. They said, okay, you can put out our newsletter and stuff. I go, okay, cool, and you can edit the handbook, and I go, great. Well, who's going to put all this stuff together? And they go, well, you are. So I had to learn how to be a designer and stuff at the same time. So that's how I kind of got into the whole thing, and So I put out a tabloid magazine in Montreal called Rearguard in the 80s, which was like, you know, 36 pages a month. And we interviewed everybody from Metallica to the Ramones to local bands.
Shit.
And whoever made it to the cover was the best photo.
So can I time out you for 1 second?
So wait, so the time that Metallica was in the magazine, they weren't on the cover. It was some local band because we had better photos.
Okay, Metallica, cool. Ramones?
Ramones.
You interviewed the Ramones?
Ramones.
Let me touch that hand.
Went to Ottawa actually, and got into a show in Ottawa and interviewed them there. And yeah, they were great. You know what? It was the weirdest interview ever because I was in this kind of really big backstage room because they were playing some sort of big concert hall, and so it's like almost like a small gymnasium. And they were like all over the room, like sitting in different places.
Right.
And so I was interviewing mostly Joey, and as I was interviewing him, I was thinking, oh my God, this is the worst interview ever. Because I asked him a question and he wouldn't look up. He'd never look up. He'd always looking down. And so like this, he was doing this to me, and he would kind of answer like, and I was like, oh my God. And then I went home, and it was it was obviously for print. So like I just typed out all the recordings, and I was like, okay, he's friggin' brilliant.
Right.
You know, it was one of the best interviews I'd ever done. He was like really thoughtful, and it really made sense. But when he was actually saying it, I was just like, oh my God. It's the Ramones. You know.
Such a huge fan of the Ramones for different reasons, but one is just basic songwriting. Yeah, I don't know if you know this, but the second K-Man in the 45's album is called the Ska Moans, It was a ska tribute to the Ramones. and like I've been a fan my entire life, like since the age of 10 on, and to be able to just sit there with Joey. And who, by the way, I heard him. He had a podcast before he passed. Just like it was like all garage rock and stuff. One of the best radio shows I ever heard.
Oh, really?
It
I
was
didn't know that.
So good. Yeah. Man, he knows his stuff, eh?
Yeah.
He might be quiet when he's not on stage or whatever, but that man knows what's what.
Well, it's kind of it's really funny. Like because even when you loved bands in like the 70s and the 80s, there just wasn't the information. Like, you'd buy like Cream magazine to get an interview with the Ramones or one of those like music magazines out of England, and it was just so hard to find information. And now I'm kind of like, I'm just rediscovering a lot of the bands that I really liked. Now I'm getting all this new information about the Ramones and seeing all these old photos of, who they were hanging out with. I go, really, Joan Jett and Joey Ramone were hanging out? And I was like, that's so fucking cool.
Who would want to be in that room, right?
Yeah.
Can I just sit in the corner here and shut up? That's wicked. But like, it's so cool, like the fact that, like, I know that lyric-wise, some of it can be tongue-in-cheek, fun, based on movies and stuff like that. But I know you hit the political wall every once in a while as well, right? And I mean, being a news producer, it's interesting to see.
We got a lot of anti-media songs.
There you go. I'm anti myself.
Yeah, no, it's. I think we always describe our music as kind of like a night out in Montreal. It's full of beer, girls, and politics.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
So we kind of cover everything. We've always said that you don't have to believe. We're not like a political band. We always just say we're a non-political band. And somebody actually came up and said, like, half your songs are political, dude. Like, how can you say that? And I go,
Busted.
well, yeah, okay, well, they're positive. We just never think that you have to believe what we believe to listen to our. We're not going to hit you over the head. But
That's a cool angle, eh? I mean, so many people I find like become preachy, and if you don't, believe the way I believe or think the way I think, you can't even listen to us, or you can't be part of my posse,
Yeah, well, it was kind of the Fugazi kind of generation, and I much though I admired a lot of their stuff, I didn't want to be the band of you have to believe everything we believe.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you're going to be like some racist nuthead, nutball or something like that, then we will let you know very quickly you're not welcome. But if you're more conservative leaning, like we'll say, well, we don't agree with you, but you can still listen to our music.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so.
And maybe he'll be lucky, and some of it'll rub off on him too.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're working.
Well, and that's that's part of being in the media. It's that's part of being in the mainstream media is like you want to reach people, and it's if you have a podcast or if you got a blog, it's like, okay, everybody who likes a very specific section of the news or your point of view is going to be listening.
Yeah.
But in the mainstream media, you get to like reach a whole bunch of people who probably don't agree with your personal views, and you get a chance to maybe nudge them in the in the right direction.
Absolutely. So. And I don't know about you, but like I also like hearing other points of view. You know what I mean? Where I find a lot of people these days, it's like, it's almost like, we just went through the election. Everybody's like, I'm conservative or I'm liberal. I'm like, I want to hear what y'all have to say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't find there's enough of that. It's always like, well, liberals, turn it off. Or, conservatives, they suck. They're gonna just tax everything and build bombs in all hospitals. True or not, I don't know. Who am I to say? But I do like to know who's talking and who's saying what, because first of all, I like to know where my enemies are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm not gonna shut them up. I'm gonna let it go.
Yeah, and I also want to know kind of what's happening. People get surprised. It's like, how did Hillary Clinton lose? Well, if we're actually paying attention to what was going on, it was kind of like, this is a pretty easy scenario to understand. And you gotta be able to look around at these things and kind of go, okay, there's this is coming, and a lot of people believe this, and maybe that's what we should, we want, as kind of talking for the left now, should be working on is putting out more information there, as opposed to just putting out, fuck you, you don't believe what we do, and we're gonna like just yell at you. Yeah. I mean, the one thing I always say, when you have things like Trump happen, is like it's great for punk rock.
Oh, yeah,
You
man.
know, it's
There's
like,
gonna
it's like
be
the
a
Reagan
lot.
years again.
Yeah,
You
man.
know?
Dead Kennedys, get out. You know, get your pen again there, Jello.
We got like 2 or 3 songs on the new album we got coming out about Donald Trump.
That's right. You're making a new album, aren't you?
Yep.
Yeah. And do you have any idea what it's gonna be called yet?
Yes, it's called Don't Buy the First Album, Jerkwad. Get this one.
I love it. I absolutely love it. That's fantastic.
Because we always find people like they come to a t-shirt table if they don't know us as well. They'll come and they're like, "Oh, what's your first album?" Because they always figure the first song and the first album is going to be really good, and then it's going to be downhill from there. And I'm like, dude, our first album is kind of like garage punk, and it's okay. I was proud of it back then. I'm still proud of it in retrospect. But man, we've been practicing for 39 freaking years.
Right.
We're better now. And if we didn't keep on putting out albums that at least I thought when we put them out were better than the previous albums, we'd stop putting out albums.
Yeah.
So like buy one of the new albums. Like our best album was Made in Montreal, which came out a couple of years ago, and then we put out our greatest hits, but we put new songs on it, and like those are my favorite songs.
Yeah.
I mean, we did a split now just this year. We released it called Punk East versus Punk West with 3 other bands, and
That's so cool.
they're our friend. They're my favorite songs.
Yeah,
the songs on that
that's so
album.
cool because split albums used to be a big thing, and they were happening frequently. Yeah, I can't until you mentioned it, I'm like I can't remember last time. I'm not talking a compilation album, but really a split album where 1, 2, 3 bands or whatever, not one, but 2, 3, 4 bands or whatever have multiple songs on it. Or the classic is 2 bands and one side is one side is the other or whatever.
Yeah,
we got to get more of that stuff back.
Well, it's good because I mean it's just a great way for especially like this album was kind of like we got with the Montreal side, which is us and Riot Porn.
Okay.
Riot Porn, who were just amazing.
They
Female
really
vocals, like first time I heard them, I was like, holy crap, that's like a freaking amazing band. And then
shout out to Riot Porn.
Yeah. And then the other side is Calgary, is the Calgary side, and it's the Motherfuckers, who we've been playing with forever. And
I'm not aware of them.
Oh yeah, they're really good, like just straight ahead. Well, they kind of the name is appropriate.
I'll take a listen to that. Yeah.
And there's this band Mandible Claw,
who
we actually played with when we went out west last year. Yeah, last spring.
Where'd you play when you're in Calgary?
Do you different places every time.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember where we played last time.
It's that blur of tour blur going on here.
Somebody gives us an address, we turn up. We hope it's a club. Sometimes it's a hotel. Sometimes
I hope it's a house party and I can have the sofa.
Yeah, there you go. And Mandible Claw we played with, and they were like the lead singer. I swear is like the best frontman I've ever seen.
Really? Yeah?
Like I mean, apart from the music, music's great, but like he was just like he's all over the stage and just so intense. Like it's just like wow, okay, it's
punk rock.
This is like the next stage, and it's nice that there's like a next stage happening.
Yeah,
out
man.
there,
When is this coming out?
Actually, it's already out.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, it just came out like 2-3 months ago.
It's online.
I'll say yes.
There you go. I'll second that. Yes.
I think it's on the Motherfuckers Bandcamp. You can get it through their page.
Yeah, definitely.
And then it's just on vinyl. Other than that, so
discover new music, people. Always be on the search for new stuff. Don't always look back. And the first album's not always the sound.
Yeah, it usually sucks, except for the Clash.
Yeah. Hey, there you go. Yeah. You heard about the Montreal Calling?
Yeah, we're playing on it.
My man. They just announced us today on it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we
cool.
couldn't announce it before at the start when he was planning it because we already had other commitments. But now we've passed those Montreal commitments. We can say that.
Cool.
That's going to be a blast. Do you know what song you're doing? I have no
idea. No friggin' idea.
I don't know if you did the same thing as me, but I think he said send a couple of ideas, whatever. I sent him 3 ideas, and then we'll see which one. Then hopefully it'll be one of the ones I know.
And then he said play a couple of your songs and like one. And maybe one other song from the era. So
right.
we actually used to cover "Get Over You" by the Undertones, and the Undertones actually opened for the Clash in Montreal. So I was thinking, well, here's a
That
song.
works.
So,
That works.
So
yeah.
hopefully that'll be one of them. Because
Yeah.
it's easy to play.
We did the same.
I like things
I
like that,
named
easy to
2
play.
Clash songs and one of the era. We went with the Cramps from the era.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, exactly. Which was a bit later, but they crossed over.
Yeah. Yeah, no, so it's, I mean, that's going to be fun. It's going to be a weird show because
I
there's
know,
a lot
right?
of bands that just aren't punk there. So
Yeah.
I'm just kind of wondering how that's going to work.
That's
But
going to be interesting. That's for sure. You know.
it's going to be our shortest set in a long, long time.
Right.
You know, like 3 or 4 songs. Okay, that's about 9 minutes. Time to go to bed.
See, I have this thing where I used to drink a lot before shows, but I don't do that anymore. I usually start with the first song now, you know, and then I order, because we have this thing in the band. We always order shots to the stage, and then at the end of the tour, calculate how many we actually paid for. You know, see if we're, you know, which side of the line we're falling on, if we're winning or losing. You know, but if you're only doing 2 or 3 songs,
You have to do the shots.
we're gonna be
pretty quick.
sober by the end of the show. That never happens.
Yeah, we kind of got this thing where we always. Actually, we were talking before, and I was mentioning how we're the band that always gets up early, and like so even when we're going to like a new town, you know, even if it's 6 or 8 hours away, we'll like get up at like 7 in the morning, and then we'll be there in town for like 1 in the afternoon or maybe 3, just so we like go into town, hang out, check out the cool stores,
Exactly.
you know, fun up the club who are like, what do you mean you're in town? We've been in town for 5 hours. Come on,
Yeah,
when are you
man.
open?
Well, that's it.
but-
Get a taste for it.
But we also like we'll you know find a pub at like 2 in the afternoon. So now my new thing is I basically start drinking at 2 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And then by the time the show rolls around, I'm just like, okay, that's it. I'm probably not going to be drinking anymore. I'm just like,
Right.
'cause I have to get up in the morning and drive again at 7
Yeah,
o'clock.
man.
So.
Man, Canadian touring, eh?
Yeah.
drive. It's insane. Like, just we were talking about it before we sat down here when we were upstairs. We were making some tea and stuff, you know, because he's British. Mom wouldn't want to know what's in your tea, would she? But yeah, we were just talking about like touring Canada. The drives are insane, you know. When Sudbury to Thunder Bay the next day, there's, you know, 10, 12 hours of your day right there, you know.
Yeah, and we always have good shows in Sault Ste. Marie.
I love the Sioux.
And so, like, we actually, when we put out our Canadian as Fuck album, 93, I guess, we actually just drove to Sault Ste. Marie. We actually drove there to do the record launch.
Oh, really?
We just drove to Sault Ste. Marie and then drove home again the next day. So it's just like, okay, that's like 2,000 kilometers and a day and a half to
crazy,
do a single show.
Yeah, man. It's the Sioux's always great though. They love their punk rock shows.
Oh,
they
yeah.
really do, and they'll do them anywhere. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, funeral parlor. We did a funeral
Really?
parlor there. We actually played a funeral parlor there for probably like 4 or 5 years in a row.
Waking the Dead. I like it.
Yeah. And then where else? There was another weird place we played there. Oh, we played the Windsor Hotel. The Windsor, but it turns into a senior.
Yeah, they have a venue
home,
downstairs, and you can sleep upstairs, and there's seniors around. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we played the ballroom, and I think it was the last time they ever let anybody into the ballroom. It was like we walked in there and went, "Oh, chandeliers and shag carpets. This
Yeah.
is not."
The manager runs out, half like, "Can you guys turn it down a bit?"
Yeah.
Right? That was in Squamish.
Yeah.
I got a thing. Squamish and me got it going on. We got a beef going in that town, man.
Oh, man.
That's funny. Yeah, the manager literally ran out in the middle. "Can you guys just turn it down a bit?" Some people, no, we don't do that.
We did. We had we don't tour as much as we used to, but it's just life gets in the way. But a couple of years ago, we had like a week off in the summer, and it was like finally getting together. Okay, everybody in the band had the same week off. I didn't have custody of my son that week, so I was like, okay, we got a week. So we did 6 shows in 6 days and drove to Regina and back.
The
It
perfect vacation.
like 6,000 kilometers. It was actually 5,994 kilometers, and I was thinking, should I drive around the block just for like 6 kilometers, just
Right.
like make it 6,000? I was like, no, I just drove 6,000 kilometers in 6 days. I want to go to sleep.
I want to get the hell out of this truck.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
So our truck is a PT Cruiser now. That's our touring van.
Look at you moving uptown.
Yep.
And gear is over there waiting for you. or-
Yeah, it's just like whatever's there. It's like, okay, yeah. And then somebody will like say, can we just like use whatever gear you guys have? And they go, sure. And they'll email me like all this list of like, it says something with so many ohms and something. And I just go, sure. Does it have distortion? Yes. Okay.
Perfect.
We're good.
Yeah, man. You know, that's the way to do it. I mean, like, we always drag way too much gear around, you know, everywhere. But, you know, I remember doing, I did a couple shows with the Dreadnoughts out west. And they showed up, and like, we're all friends, we're all on the same label and stuff like that. But, you know, I didn't even think, like, no message beforehand or anything. It's just, we just figured we'd use your gear, you know. Like, of course you will. You know, it's all good. But I think I got to do that one day.
Well, I think our last big tour, when we went out and we did the 26 shows in 26 days, and we brought all our gear and stuff in the van, and we never actually took it out once. We were just like, every time we got to a venue, we would just like, we'd ask the other band. You know,
what is it? A band full of lead singers or something?
Yeah.
Nobody gets the gear out of the van?
Well, it's really heavy, that stuff.
That's right.
Gets heavier every year.
Yeah, man. That's a real thing. I got this shoulder injury, and it kind of fucks me up sometimes, and I hate being that guy. You know, I mean, like, you know, and I had it really bad. Like, it's like this tendonitis, bursitis thing that I've had like for years from playing sports as a kid. And I was sitting there, I'm like,
see, that'll teach you to play
right?
sports.
Yeah, man. Like, knock your head and knock your shoulder. But I had such a hard time being that guy on the side, watching the guys bring stuff in, until one of my boys like, just stop trying there and just chill out, go do an interview or something. You know? I'm like, all right, I can take a hint. That's wild. How many albums have you put out so far? Do you have a number?
It depends on how you count albums. But I'd say we're in the area of 16 to 18.
Wow.
So, you know, it gets kind of complicated later on when it's like, okay, we've got a couple of EPs, but one has like 7 or 8 songs, which I know some people count as an album, but we only count as an EP. Or we've re-released something, but we released it with like 6 bonus tracks that nobody had ever heard of, and an entire live album. So does that count as a new album? I guess.
I know what you mean about the debate on it, and everybody has a different point of view. In your case, let's go with what you call it.
Yeah.
You are a legend. I don't know. Like, I don't know if you realize it.
Well,
like, you are. Hey, you know, there's no ways around it. There's no, maybe I'm not. You started in 1980 and you just finished 2 shows yesterday.
Yeah.
You know, anybody that wants to live a rock and roll lifestyle, and I'm not talking about success or anything like that. That has nothing to do with being a legend in my mind anyway. What it means to me is that you've lived a rock and roll lifestyle longer than most people have been alive that play rock and roll right now.
The number of times we go to shows now, and look, we want there's got to be young people at shows. I don't want to be playing to everybody my age, or your age.
No, you slid that in there, right?
You know, if there's not like, you know, 18-year-olds in the crowd or people like trying to sneak in, you know, we just stop playing. Like, we don't want to be our own cover band. You
Absolutely.
know?
No, I get that.
But at the same time, it's kind of cool the number of people who come up and say, wow, I'm so glad you guys are still playing. Like, you were my first punk rock show.
Right.
You know, and sometimes it's like 5 years ago or 10 years ago or even like 25 years ago. And it's like, you're my first punk rock show.
I'm sure you were a lot of people's first punk rock show.
Yeah. Well, we made this thing. We decided after a while, we started touring in Canada. And, you know, the first couple of tours, it was like, you know, we play, you know, and it was like, you know, early 90s, we started doing the cross-Canada tours. And it was like not very well established, you know, routes. There was no internet. There's, you know, phone calls cost $600 a month in long distance just to try and book things. We were phoning like radio stations to, you know, college stations. Are there any punk venues in town? You know?
Right.
Or
and they're like, what?
Or any basements? You know? And so, like, you know, we'd play maybe 10 or 12 shows in a month. And,
I just had a flash. You toured before GPS.
Oh, yeah, way.
How the hell did people do that?
Well, we knew once you've done Canada like so many times.
Right.
But yeah, that was the fun part. It was our system. You'd drive into town and you'd look for the cutest punk girl you could see somewhere and ask her directions. That was, you know, that was just the way we did it. Where was I?
See, we bounce all over subjects here because we're going to come back to the subjects we started with later too.
So yeah, we were just like, after a while we just went, you know, when we're not playing, we got nothing to do. We're just spending money. We can't stay at the same place. You know, we're not going to like stay at somebody's place for like 3 days. Yeah. And basically we're like, okay, if we're not playing, we're wasting our time. We're spending tons of money. We're getting bored. So it's just like, okay, after a while, we will play anywhere. We'll book like the main towns, and we'll get a decent guarantee out of them. That will pay for the tour. and then we'll play your tiny little town. In Vermeer, we always used to play. It has one traffic light.
Yes. I grew up in a town like that.
Yeah.
Vankleekill, Ontario.
Oh, Vankleekill, yeah.
Yeah, man.
Soundcore was from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are some of my best friends. Actually,
Yeah.
my best friend is a drummer. His name is Christopher Stewart. Dave Barton was the singer. Brian Mullen was the bass player. And Troy Young was the guitar player. Whoa, my brain.
Yeah, there you go. And they used to play with like Crash 13
Yep,
and the Stan GT.
absolutely.
And,
yeah. Back at Station 10 Terminal and all those days. Yeah. That's wild.
So like there are towns like that, and we would play every one of them. Campbell River every year, and on Vancouver Island, and just so after a while, we just like, okay, we were pretty much the only punk rock show in a lot of towns every year. Every August, we'd be going through, and everybody would come out to the show, and when we first started going out, we never had any big promotion or anything behind us. So like when I first went out in Calgary and Vancouver and stuff, it was like, okay, there's like 12 people here, but hey, we'll have some fun. But we'd have like way better shows in the smaller towns.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And then after a while, after doing this for like 10 years, all of a sudden, like our shows, we start going to the big towns, and like we get people phoning us up and offering us big shows, and we're like, really? Like, you want us to play like a really big venue? Didn't we get 12 people last year? and we turn up, and the places would be full, and then we were like going, how did this, I mean, I'm glad it happened, but how did this happen? And it was like all the people from all the small towns moved to the big towns. So everybody moved to Calgary and Edmonton and Vancouver.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, all this playing, it wasn't like a plan, but all this playing all at small towns like actually paid off. And so
I was talking to Danny Rebel about that whole effect, to like and we even talked about the Vancouver and the bands coming out, and why bands, like there's so many bands that grow up in small towns and stuff because they can make noise and and hang out together and do all this wild shit without the law always being on top of them and squishing them down, and all this kind of thing. But we also talked about how in the small towns they have no schools after high school, right? A lot of the small towns, so they always move to the city, right, for college, university. And next thing you know, all those small town shows become the big show in the cities. Yeah, it's wild, man.
Yeah, I love the fact that that happens. And we played Humboldt, Saskatchewan for forever. It was like, that was so cool.
Did you tour outside of Canada a lot?
No, we've played 9 shows outside of Canada, and kind of regret doing it, because it was just like, we just have even when we were touring regularly, we had a certain time frame that we could do things. Yeah. Like we had our summer vacation. We were still playing, we were playing 100 shows a year.
That's wild, man. Yeah.
But it would be like, 28 tour would be in one shot for the Cross Canada, another 5 or 6 out to the Maritimes. Yeah. And then it would be like weekends. You'd play Friday and Saturday, almost every Friday and Saturday, but in Quebec, Ontario, maybe into New Brunswick. Yeah. And, we just, so the time we went to the States, it was like, okay, we'll go across Canada, but instead of playing all the way across Canada and all the way back, played all the way across, and then we went down to the States, and it was like, we had some good shows, but it just seemed that was such a long way to drive and such a hassle, and we were playing some places where it just didn't work really well because we just weren't known. Yeah. Other places where they're like, this is like the best show we've had in in months, or in the entire year, and I'm like, yeah, it is a good show, but I could get more people in Humboldt, and we didn't play Humboldt because we were coming down to the States. Right. It's kind of, so it's like, okay, that's it. We're staying in Canada.
Touring Canada is incredible. It really is, especially if you include the smaller towns, which can actually be big shows in small towns. Like the whole town will come out to the show. You know what I mean? But like, I love it. I think we've done Canada 12 times now, coast to coast. You know, it's like I love it all the time. We're about to go do U.S. for the first time. Next week, actually. We're going down California all the way to Tijuana and play there, and cool. Finish that with some friends in Vegas, and then see if we make it out of Vegas ever, right? But I love touring Canada, and I think like some of the bigger bands like will just play the big shows or the big cities and stuff, but I find they're missing out on a lot of the good Canadian shows by doing that. Some of the medium or smaller towns are like the best shows.
Yeah, I mean that's what our spring and fall now is like. I have custody of my son like 1 week on, 1 week off. Yeah. So every second weekend that I don't have my son, he's in school. Dropped him off, on Friday morning. And he's going to be with his mom for the next week, and so it's like
Tour starts.
it's Friday and Saturday, so it's like it's
How old is he, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, he's 16 now.
16.
So I'm just waiting for a couple more years. He's going to be our T-shirt guy, and then we can
I was
tour
just
all the time.
gonna say that, right? My daughter's 15 right now, and I keep telling her, I can't wait for one day in her life. I want to take her across Canada.
Yeah.
In the van with us, because I'd like for her to see the country from the van.
Yeah,
I
see the real country.
I love it so much, man. And you get some people that are like, "Oh, I'm not crazy about the prairies." I love the prairie stretch. I absolutely do, except for wintertime blizzard with the crosswind every once in a while.
Yeah,
there it gets
sketchy, we don't do the touring thing never did in the winter.
Yeah,
so
we regretted it really fast. We almost fell off a mountain.
Oh,
yeah, we're in BC up in the Rockies, and the road closed because there was a wind and snow and just blocked the entire road. So there was a couple of cars we could see. Everybody was just stopped. There was nowhere to go. Still in the lane, even. It just happened so fast that the snow came on that the road was closed. So luckily we had iPads and laptops and stuff like that. We just watched movies in the van until like some truck came by and opened up the road again.
Man.
But we're on the top of a hill, and we had a trailer on the van, and then all of a sudden we're just stopped there. But then we just felt it shift. Like, we're done.
Yeah.
We're going off the side of this mountain. Those mountains in the winter, don't do it. It's not worth it. It really isn't.
Devil's Gorge or something?
God,
I think it's above Golden.
Yeah, we raced down. Okay, you know the Brains?
Yep.
Colin is playing bass. He's driving the van. We're on tour together. We did 32 shows together. We're on the van right behind them. No, between the two vans is a car. Family car, one little baby, one maybe 7-year-old squirt, and a family. But I don't know why, but we started going down that crazy road, and we started pushing a bit hard. But both vans are fully loaded with gear.
Yeah.
And you're right, you have to be on the brakes quite a bit, right? Well, both vans' brakes caught on fire. Like literally, they're red, smoking. I think I even saw a bit of flame. We had to pull over, but this car in the middle kind of pulled over with us. I guess they were feeling pushed on and kind of kept on. They're overheating too. I mean, it was like sizzle classic. Like if somebody would have peed on these brakes or something, probably would have cracked the disc. Okay, they're like red glowing. So we pull over, but we look around. It's all mountains. You know that movie Alive?
Yeah.
Within 5 minutes, I'm like, the family's out there with the baby and the kid.
Yeah.
Like, well, we're not going to starve, are we? They looked at us. They left right away.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, but then we started singing, I'm going to eat you, baby. Apparently, you're not supposed to do that, even if it's joking between friends.
Yeah, maybe they weren't thinking you were so friendly at that point.
Right? Oh, no, we're offering them to come hang out with us. But no, man, Canadian touring, it's amazing. And like now I find there's a good stable of bands that are crisscrossing the country. I don't know if it's more or less than what it was in the past, but we always cross the same bands all the time. You know, the little the native trading shop there. Remember, we're pulling in one direction, then the Mahones pulled up on the other direction. You know, you're always crossing each other. You know, which is a good thing, because if you forget your shit at one venue, you just call up the next band, coming, hey, can you pick that up for me? I'll meet you back in Montreal.
I think it's just one of the things is touring really breaks up a lot of bands too, because all of a sudden you're like really literally on top of everybody else in the band for for an entire month, and every little thing that could bother you,
shut the door.
So it's kind of, so I think the bands that survive their first tour are the ones that'll keep on doing it. I mean,
it's a good way to weed out your musicians.
Yeah.
You know, that's where you separate the kids from the men, or whatever you want to call it, the dogs and the pups. Yeah. But I mean, if you're not ready to tour, you can't be in the band. You know what I mean?
And we kind of developed all sorts of rules. It was like nobody's allowed to take their shoes off in the van.
Really?
Because man, that's too
it gets nasty,
too stinky.
Fast, right?
No open beers in the van, because somebody will always spill it.
Yeah.
And
it's
even
always
when
on the
you're
driver.
stopped. Yeah, even when you're stopped, it's like, no, somebody's going to spill it. It's going to smell like poop in here for the rest of the tour.
And you got to deal with the law as well.
Yep.
And it's always on the driver, kids.
And there's the other one, which is the driver is God. That means they get to choose the tunes. If they want something to eat, you have to make them something.
Yeah, man, I like the sound of that.
They're the only ones working at this point in time. You're just sleeping, asshole. Like, get me a sandwich.
Well, how many guys are in your band? 3, right?
Yep.
Yeah, apparently it's different when you're in a ska band. Different luxuries.
Well, like we developed all those even before, because now I'm just the only driver, so I like driving.
Yeah.
I get in, I do the whole Zen thing. So like I'm up in the morning, I'm driving 6 hours, 8 hours, usually with no radio.
I've always been a
Just
driver
like-
as well. See, I'm like you. Like I like some moments of listening to music, stuff like that. But when I'm driving, sometimes I like that time where my mind wanders. It's often where I write songs is while I'm driving, and then next thing you know, I'm recording into my phone while I'm driving. Or my Frankie, our bass player, who will be on the podcast tomorrow, by the way. He'll hold up the recorder, and I'll kind of like throw out some ideas and stuff. I come up with all kinds of ideas because my mind's all zen, and we're going. Sometimes we listen to podcasts as well and stuff like that. It's fun. I find it passes the time really well, and then get back to music. But I like the downtime of especially when you're in clubs and venues all the time. I'm a big fan. If you want to hear music and you're in the van, especially like with us, it's 5 guys in one van. Put on some headphones. You know what I mean, and enjoy your trip.
Yeah, and like I said, the guys are usually just asleep. Like we have the most well-rested band ever. And me, I'm just like, okay, Zen.
Yeah, no, that's the way to do it. Now, we're going to go back in time now.
Okay.
First album was called?
Ripcordz Are Go / Ripcordz Are God.
And this is 1988. 88.
Took us a while to get around to putting out an album.
Well, the first year, that's it too, right? Some people like ask me, when did the band start? So I was asking, like when we put out our first album or when the band started? Because you have those development years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're figuring your shit out. You're figuring yourself out, and what is it you want to do.
And at first, it was kind of more like, oh, we're just going to play for our friends and going to, and play the occasional party and, hit the occasional club. But it was like, it was really kind of, no, we're just doing this to have some fun.
Yeah.
And, it was the only reason we started was because somebody had left a drum kit in my parents' basement.
Oh, really?
And I wasn't living there at the time, but it was like, you got a drum kit in the basement? And then it's like, okay, let's find other stuff. And we did. And we used to play softball on Saturdays, I think.
Did you ever play softball with like the Jailhouse Rock Gang? No, you weren't part of that?
No, that's...
Because they had a team going for a while.
This was like 1978, so...
Oh, God, all right.
No, it's funny because Dom, who started the Jailhouse Rock...
Yeah, we had him on the podcast here as well.
Yeah, well, he was our roadie.
Really?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
He used to write for the magazine that I put out, Rearguard, back in the early 80s.
Okay, that makes perfect sense now that you mention it. I could see that.
And then he came across Canada with us, and then started the Jailhouse, and it was very much part of that. I'm actually giving him a lot of advice for his book on Jailhouse now.
That's right. Yeah. I don't know when that's coming out, but I can't wait to see it though.
Yeah. I got a note from him the other day saying, "Hey, do you have InDesign and Photoshop? Because I need to finish this book." So it might be a while.
Yep. Gotcha.
So we just started. We were playing softball, and it was just like, okay, we've got people who are gathered in one location, and who have played softball and then drunk beer. Perfect start to a band, if you ask me.
Right? Yeah.
And then,
Baseballs and beers.
Yeah.
Have you written that song yet? Baseball and beers.
We got a song called "Let's Go Expos."
Well, there you go. Yeah, man. That's awesome. Do you mind if I smoke?
No.
Cool.
And then so then we had all this equipment and we just started playing. That was
You do you smoke?
No, I don't. Thanks. I just fall asleep.
Yeah.
I thoroughly encourage everybody else to do it.
There you go. Just not during the show, right?
Yeah. So we're so we were just we were just doing it to have fun, and then it's kind of just evolved over time, and I was like, hey, wait, this is more fun than I thought it would be. And like, wait a second, I got some cool songs, and then it just kind of once we really started once we put out the first album, that's when we started playing almost immediately. We were playing 50, 100 shows a year for probably a good decade and a half.
That's wild. People don't realize like what it takes. Like when you say it, like the years that you did 100 shows. I know it's not every year that you do 100. 100 shows a year is almost a third of the entire year in a show. You know what I mean? Like people don't realize the amount of sacrifice, work, sweat, alcoholism,
fun, beer,
right,
but
and everything else we won't talk about.
Yeah.
There's rules to the road, by the way.
We had so much fun. But I mean, it's it's but we always had this approach that it was like, okay, tour is summer vacation. Like this, we're going out to have fun. We're going to like go to a club every night, and we're probably going to enjoy the music. People will buy us beer, want to hang out, and we'll see new towns. It's like so it was never even in the early years where there's no chance we were making any money or staying in a hotel or anything. Like it was just like, okay, we're just kind of partying with friends all across Canada. Like, who gets that opportunity?
Exactly. See, I do have a bit of that philosophy in me as well. That I've never, I work with street kids and stuff like that. I'm not making money, you know what I mean, at my regular job. But music's always been my ticket to travel, and see people or live or be social or get out and all that kind of thing. So I get that. When I asked you if you played outside of Canada a lot, and you told me no, you didn't. You did about 7 shows in the States. One of the reasons I asked, because I did Google you today, before I came here, because I wasn't sure.
I've never Googled me.
Dude, there's all kinds of shit about you. You got to talk to somebody out there. They're talking mad shit about you. No, I saw a list of some of the bands you played with. And I'll drop this. You did a show with Nirvana.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know how many people, like, in hindsight, would just like sell their own balls to do, to meet them or whatever?
The real unfortunate thing about that show that we played with Nirvana is I don't remember it.
I can understand that.
In fact, the only reason, as strange as Dominic Castelli comes back on this one, the only reason I know that we played the show with him is because Dom has a poster showing that they opened for us at Fun.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah. It's just like, obviously early years for Nirvana.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's just, and that was the time where we were playing like 100 shows a year.
Where did you play with them?
At Fun.
At Fuf's, yeah.
Yeah.
At Fuf's back in the day.
And they were like, and I was just like, okay, I just cannot remember this, but yeah, hey, cool.
Yeah.
I mean, we've played probably, we're always trying to estimate this, but probably around 3,000 shows. And, we played with so many bands and so many venues. I can't remember so many bands have like come up and said, yeah, you played with us. And I'll remember it if there's a song of theirs that I know, or sometimes I'll remember the entire show, but other times it's kind of like, that was like an 8-band show in a basement. I kind of...
amongst the other 99 shows of that year with 8 bands, you know what I mean? Like, I know about that blur. It's like I have a thing in my band that's hard. I don't know if this happens to you or not. Like, I usually recognize faces and I don't remember names. Okay? Like, and it's so not a hit on the person, and sometimes people are insulted if you don't recognize them or you feel like you should know their name and all this kind of thing. But I'm literally the worst at it ever, to the point now on tour, my bass player Frankie, again, whenever I talk to somebody and he knows who it is, he'll walk by me. Either I'll say, hey, this is my bass player Frankie, and then Frankie asks their name and I get their name that way, or he'll just walk by and whisper in my ear who I'm talking to.
Well, my big problem is that, I mean, I got the band, but I also had the magazine, the Rearguard, that we did for years, and I did other magazines like that. I had a record label for like more than a decade, and we put out like almost 50 albums.
Oh, wow.
I currently have 2 full-time jobs. I'm a professor at Concordia, a professor of journalism, but I also work for Matt TV. I put together a show, and before that I worked at CBC, CTV, Global. So I've got this massive life I've met so many people in like so many different walks of life through being a journalist or through being punk rocker, that I remember nothing. And I'm pretty sure I've insulted every punk rocker in Canada at least twice.
I don't know about you, but like I got into the a thing now when it comes to that. It's like when I see something, I either just know how I feel when I'm with them. Like, do I feel good being around this person or bad?
Yeah.
And is that simple and basic animal instinct, almost like how a dog. Like I had this black lab growing up, and he loved everybody. But one night, somebody knocked on the door, and the guy was drunk. That dog, just all that peace and love part of that dog went out the window, and he was not letting that person in. They just feel it. And I've kind of resigned myself to that. It's like, I feel good around this person. Okay, I want to hang out with them. But it's that simple, you know what I mean? Because I just can't remember it. Like, I see too many people a day.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, too successful, I'd say.
I did not know you were a professor, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Can I jump on that? Do
sure.
they know who you are?
He vaguely, sort of.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, because I teach all these courses, and so it's like, and one of them is like a radio newsroom, like we kind of really do a radio newsroom, like real life, 3
Really?
hours to put together a newscast.
Can I sit in on it one day?
I'm sure.
Yeah?
I'd have to ask the guys in the class, the students, but I'm sure.
I would
it'd be
love
fun.
to.
Yeah, it's kind of it's crazy because like you go to school, you got like a week to do an assignment, like all this stuff, like normal stuff, and there's a lot of theory taught as well.
Yeah.
And the radio newsroom that I teach is like, okay, you get in at 8:30 in the morning, you have to pitch story ideas. It can't be more than 12 hours old. It's got to be something currently happening. Then you got to start making phone calls, do interviews, write a script, record everything, edit it together by 11:15. So you got like 2.5 hours to do this, put it all together. And
I love it.
Then we do a radio newscast, and it's like, but every once in a while, so it's like,
Are they
okay,
all on
this
speed?
is real life. Well, they are. they wish they were.
Right.
There's a lot of gnashing of teeth at the beginning of the semester, but they, by the end of the semester, they can do it.
Wow.
And that's what you need to do in real life. Is like be able to make the phone calls, get the information like quick, because even more so with the internet now, obviously, it's sort of like, okay, you don't have a week to put a story together. You've got like 4 minutes before somebody else puts the story up. So
I never really put brain energy into that whole concept, but it makes perfect sense. Like, it must be a race then.
Oh yeah, it is, like more and more, and so it's like, and radio is kind of like for all the old school media, it's like it's still okay, you've got a newscast every half hour, every hour. It's like you got to fill that thing with new stuff each hour, and it can't be like stuff that happened yesterday.
Yeah.
So it's like, and so that's what this course teaches. But every once in a while, just to sort of show.
So radio news is really punk rock.
Yeah, well,
it's like go in and do it.
Yeah, it's like every once in a while, it's like coming up to deadline, I'll do the Ripcordz voice. So instead of just going deadline, it's like, deadline!
Yeah, man.
They're like, what the hell? Like, I warned you guys I was going to do my Ripcordz voice.
Yeah, man. Like a Django just woke up.
Yeah.
Hey, buddy, I'm going to be all right. Oh, that's wild, though. Journalism, if I didn't get into, like, basically what I did is I realized right away I just want to live a music life and a band life. I realized at one point. But then I was like, if I have to work, I want to do something that morally I'm okay doing. And that was how I got into what it is that I do. But you know what? Journalism, I could have seen myself getting into that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's a lot of fun, and it's one of the kind of the jobs where the more you do it, like a lot of jobs, the more you do it, the more it becomes a routine, and it becomes starts getting boring. With journalism, it's kind of the opposite, because the more you do it, the more you learn the routine of the nuts and bolts of how to do things, or who to contact, or but the story is different every day. So, and it just makes it easier to gather the information and write a better story, and get better people to talk to you about that story, and find it, instead of like just spending like 3 hours trying to find somebody who will talk to you about a sewer break or something in Montreal, or something stupid a politician has said. You're like, okay, I know exactly who's going to give me like a really cool insight into that, and then I'm going to go here and I'm going to write it this way, and so the more you do it, the easier it becomes, and the better it becomes. So it's kind of a fun thing to be in.
I think I could really see how being a songwriter and somebody in rock and roll that always has to push to get what he wants type thing. I could really make the correlation between that and radio journalism, because I actually do like radio still. Some people are I think got away from radio for a while, but I have a feeling that it's kind of coming back. And I think one of the reasons why is I think podcasts became popular again, and I think that kind of joins radio as well, because like when I get into a new town, often I'll tell the guys I just want to try and find local radio. There is something about it. It helps you feel out the city a little bit, and there's something super cool about that.
Well, it's the one thing. It's the only, I'd say, only one of the old media that's still very healthy and still hiring people and stuff, in large numbers, simply because it's like you need something. We've been trained by the internet to want something straight away.
Yeah.
And now it's like, well, you still get that on radio, whether you're getting it through the internet, or whether you're tuning in on your car, which is where a lot of the audience is anyway.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's it. And there's something about like I'm sure for most people they listen to music or podcasts or whatever, but it goes on in the car. That's where sometimes I like going for a car ride just to listen to music. I can be alone. I can have the volume I want. I'm sitting between the speakers, so it's a decent sounding stereo. If you have like, even a piece of shit, I've even used the Bluetooth, and I hate those things, but they're handy sometimes. But like just listening to music in a car, what's more, the symbol of freedom? Windows rolled down, you're driving, so you have your right foot on the gas, the left foot's out the window, on the side mirror, and you're blasting music. You still need some of these, freedom feelings. It's crazy. I think, when I was saying about growing up in the country, how there's all these great bands, it's because there was a sense of freedom that we had growing up in the country. I mean, first of all, if somebody called the cops, they're coming from Hawkesbury, that's 15 kilometers away. You know what I mean? Like, people were on their own, but I also think it installed, families were installing morals and values and what's right or wrong and where are the lines and limits, and your job as a teenager is to cross those limits and cross all those lines and then figure out who you are.
Where did you say that limit was?
Right, exactly. You're talking to K-Man here. I can't give that one away. But there's something about that whole sense of freedom that we had as kids, whereas I've noticed in the city now, I've been in Montreal since I'm 19 or 20 now, and I find the kids, some guys will be into bad things and it's crime, but that's not really what I'm talking about. I'm talking good kids that are probably in school, but they're doing a couple of wild things here and there to find out who they are, right?
Yeah.
But these days, it's always the law that interjects. And I think the effect of that on the youth is way more than people realize. Like, it's that whole thing is, if it's legal, it's right.
Yeah.
If it's illegal, it's wrong. But you know what? The law wasn't there to say what's right or wrong necessarily. It's saying after what's right and wrong, this is where we're going to put a stop to an action. But these days, I just find there's so many youth correlating right and wrong versus what's legal or not legal. And then, it becomes that need for, oh God, we need another 1,000 new laws again. Just there's so many laws now, right?
I think to me anyway, when I think about, are you legal? Are you an anarchist? Are you, when you get that question all the time, and it's like, look, I kind of look at, law and order and cops, and I'm like, just kind of like, look, I don't think anybody denies there should be laws. You shouldn't be able to murder people. Kidnapping is bad. Assault is bad. I think that's kind of like, that's there. It's the order part. Right. Oh, you can't stand around and loiter.
Yeah.
Oh, you can't do this. You can't smoke here. You can't do this there. And, it's like all these rules of, we don't like it when you do this, so we're going to make sure you're going to get fined or, that crap.
And everything becomes financial at the end of it as well. Like you said, you're going to get fined. It's like this, man, I got to have a podcast. I have a court date in January, okay, for this parking ticket thing. And it's this whole job. I think I got to get a lawyer on here because I think laws and finances are going beyond what the actual purpose was, and somebody's just not paying attention or letting this stuff evolve. Basically what happened is I got a parking ticket. I was in Jamaica, okay, and I might have even forgot about it, but it wasn't online. Like, how you when you go to pay tickets online, you have a list of them. That I paid the 3 that I had on there. I paid them off and I left.
So you're supporting the municipal government, I guess, with it.
God damn it. They better fucking help me out. They won't even let me have a garden in my front lawn.
Oh, man.
That pisses me off, too. Don't get me started on that. But, so this parking ticket didn't exist in my mind.
Yeah.
Okay, because it wasn't online like the other ones were. And so I'm driving over the Jacques Cartier Bridge after work at like 5:30 at night. I get pulled over by a cop. Why are you pulling over me? Goes, I was just behind you, so I just ran your license plates. Just like that. But I wasn't doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
And then he goes, did you know you're... no, he goes, you're driving without your driver's license. I said, what are you talking about? First of all, it's my pocket.
Yeah.
I would never do that. Never... of course I'm have my driver's license. He goes, no, according to us, you don't. I said, well, can you figure out what's going on? There's a problem here. So this is the SQ. So they pulled me, at the Jacques Cartier Bridge, they have a little building.
Oh, yeah, the end of it,
He tells me to park in there. And then he goes, look, I'm going to call a tow truck. They're going to tow your car to the pound. I'm giving you a $900 ticket for driving without a license. I repeat to him, I've never received anything in the mail. I've never been stopped or somebody has taken my license. Like, I have my driver's license. So now the tow truck's coming and says, well, that's what it is.
Yeah.
So total bullshit. So I go to the SAQ, or whatever it's called there, the driving peeps. And I'm like, They say, first of all, I have a parking ticket that I've never seen. They find it in the system. I said, that parking ticket was not online. He goes, yeah, sometimes they make mistakes like that. I said, well, really? And then the cop says that my license is suspended because of that parking ticket. Goes, yeah. I said, but I didn't receive anything in the mail. No, somebody goes to your house on foot. They just go to your house, and then they tell you that your license is suspended. Well, wouldn't they leave something on my door handle, like mail or something? Oh no, they don't do that. Well, I was away in Jamaica. I just came back. It was my first week. How am I supposed to know that my license was suspended? She goes, oh. Anyway, I'm contesting the hell out of this because of that. Man. Because of the pound. Now, first of all, I paid that parking ticket the day after, right away. So my license is fine again. All right, cool. So that's costing me $900 extra, where it was something I didn't even know, driving without a license that I never even was told that it wasn't valid. So I go to call the pound up to go get my car. It's been there a day. I figure it's probably $40 or whatever. Oh, no, we have a policy that once a car is in here, it's minimum 30 days.
Oh.
I'm like, the fuck you talking about 30 days? I just paid the problem, and everything's fine. I want my car. No, it's 30 days minimum. That to me is some gangster shit, man. The problem is gone.
Yeah, they know how to make money.
They still have my car. I left it with them. Like, you keep it.
Yeah.
If 30 days of in the pound, it's probably worth as much that car was worth.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go get it back. I'm just like, keep it. But anyway, January 20th. If anybody wants to come to court with me, January 20th, like, it's unreal.
You got that ticket 411 guys on your side.
Yeah, man, I need everybody on my side. But my whole point of that, it comes back to the laws and the purpose of them. I don't think anywhere was, okay, you missed your parking meter by 5 minutes. I don't think they really wanted to charge me $300 for a parking ticket because it was late, $900 for a driver's license, and lose a car over it. Yeah. I don't think that was the purpose behind a parking ticket. The parking ticket is supposed to be enough to give you a reminder to please park properly. Law and order. The purpose seems to have disappeared, the original purpose, through that example anyway, and it becomes something else, and it becomes a financial matter more than anything. Like I said, the pound. They're making fucking top dollar off some rule that they say, did he just invent that or whatever? We'll find out, but I'm not getting. I've never taken anybody to court. I've paid things when I've been innocent because I don't want to deal with it. But I'm like, the fuck, I'm gonna sit down on this one. You know what I mean? It's crazy. But man, Paul, first of all, I feel like I could still talk another 2 hours. We're going to stop here.
Oh.
And I'm going to invite you to come back on the show. The reason we stop here is the files get really big and hard to transfer. Now, when I say stop here, we're not quite done. Yep. First of all, we talked about Nirvana. 5 bands that people heard of that you played shows with.
Well, Rancid, we played many times. First time we played with them was like 93 in Vancouver, and they were in a tiny van, same size as our van,
Yeah.
And in fact, the van was held together by stickers. There were stickers all over the outside of the van, and just like coolest guys, nicest guys. They were kind of an inspiration. Yeah. And then later on, they actually would quote us as being one of their inspirations.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Which was like, oh, that's so nice.
Yeah, man, absolutely. But I mean, you need these moments. I mean, we do it not for the money. We do it for all these fucking cool moments,
Yeah, it's just like so much fun.
Yeah.
And then we played with all these we played with all these old school punk rock. Vice Squad. We played with Vice Squad.
I've heard of them. Yeah.
Like Becky Bondage, and they were having trouble getting over the border, so it was just us and them playing at Jailhouse, and they were having so much trouble getting over the border, and we kept on so we played our set, and they still weren't there, so after like an hour, we went back up on stage and played a second set, and then I was telling the story the other day, and some guy said, "Oh, actually, no, you guys played 3 sets," and then they finally turned up at like 2:15 in the morning or 2:30 in the morning, and we left all our stuff up on stage and just said, "Look, just play our stuff."
Yeah,
so
exactly.
they played, but at 2:30 in the morning. I played with Peter and the Test Tube Babies.
Yes,
who are like just great, and it's kind of funny because they had the show Band from the Pubs. The song Band from the Pubs, which is a big song, and at some point we were like just hanging out with we never hang out backstage, but they were backstage, so we were talking with them, and my ex was there, and at some point in time we were just like we were talking, and then at some point in time she just something went wrong, and she just like threw up all over Peter's shoes.
That's wonderful.
And I was like, uh-oh. And then Peter just like looked down and looked back up and went, I say, that's the most punk rock thing that's happened to us all tour.
Sounds perfect. No, I'm an easy puker. I can relate. I puke so easy. It's ridiculous. All right, so we're at 3. Two more. So no, I'm not really counting. I think there's 2 more.
In the weird thing, we played with Lydia Lunch, who's this
Really?
kind of
I know who
New
she
York
is.
ranting
Absolutely.
poet, and I was just like, well, this is pretty freaking cool.
Mm-hmm.
So that was fun. Other famous people.
Last one.
We didn't get to play with the Ramones.
Mama.
I mean, you name like a Canadian. We played. Yeah. We did a tour with.
All right,
DOA.
other Canadian punk band.
We did a tour with DOA.
Yeah. Joe Shithead.
Yeah, Joey Shithead.
Yeah.
We actually released one of our albums on his label.
Oh, really?
Dayglows, we played just like last year, at the beginning of last year. We played with them. We played with them a whole bunch of times. SNFU we played with. Great. Actually watched them, hung out with them in Edmonton more than actually played. And we only, for our first show we ever played with them was like 5 years ago.
That's wild.
I was just like, we've seen them so many times and they'd seen us. And I remember at some point in time we used to play the Cobalt in Vancouver.
Yeah.
All the time. Had amazing shows there.
Is it still...
No, it's gone. It's too bad.
We got to do a whole podcast just on Canadian music venues, just that for like 2 hours.
Well, the Cobalt, which was before it was the Cobalt, it was a strip bar.
Really?
And we've got all these old photos, and if you look at it, in the front, it's got just like girls, which is where Motley Crue got their song "Girls, Girls, Girls" from, because they went to the strip club in Vancouver.
That's wild.
That turned into
because
Cobalt.
They were making the Dr. Feelgood album in Vancouver.
Yeah.
Wow. Brain on fire.
So it all comes together. And the funny thing is, the first time we played there, they were still like, they put a stage in, but it was still kind of strip club-ish. And they had these things where like there's these like there were a couple of showers in the middle of the pit.
Yeah.
There was like this thing where, and you pull a thing, and obviously the girls were like used to be like there, but they were still working. So
that's
like,
awesome.
So
I would love that show.
Punk could have a shower in the middle of the pit during the show.
Says no one ever.
Yeah. It's just like, okay, crusty punks no more. So
man, I got a lyric in one of our songs on the last house, like, all my friends smell like punks.
Yeah.
That's freaking awesome. If I invite you back to this podcast, will you take me up on it?
I certainly will. I got so many anecdotes. Life is an anecdote.
Absolutely. When we roll the credits, first of all, I want you to tell people before I go what's up, and then I do want to play some music here because I know there's something I want to hear that you have.
Yeah. Well, what's up? We got Sudbury and Sault Ste. Marie in 2 weeks, but
nice.
Then we kind of take it easy for the winter because there's like snow and stuff. And we are Canadian, and we know we should be Canadian and deal with it, but we'll just wait until the spring.
I used to feel that way. Now I'm like, get me to Jamaica or get me to California or Mexico or whatever.
Well, we're also supposed to be heading out west in May. We're going to be doing like Alberta and BC again, so that's going to be fun. And then we got the new album coming out. We got
that's what I want to hear about.
So that's the one. Did we say that one on air, or were we talking about that?
Yeah, was that on air or before air?
Okay, I'm gonna say it again anyway. It's called "Don't Buy the First Album, Jerkwad. Buy this one or get this one because we practice." And so we actually did a preliminary mix. We haven't quite finished it yet, but we got it.
Are we gonna get a live first time feature?
Yeah,
of this?
we've actually nobody's heard this. There's 4 people in the world who've heard this: the 3 members of the band and the guy who mixed it.
Right
so
on.
Nobody's here.
You're gonna hear it like coming through our microphones.
Yeah, so hopefully this will work.
Paul,
I'll turn this one.
Thank you for coming here and hanging out with me, and I'm going to invite you back for sure because there's so much more I want to talk to you about.
Cool.
What a pleasure, man.
Be happy. It's really fun to do this. Thanks,
right on, man. Thank you.
Now I got to see if I can figure out how the hell to do this. Don't go away. I'm crappy at computers. But there it is. Okay. I switch over and then click.
click. It's gonna work.
Well, we played towns right across this land. Drank with the kids, enjoyed the bands. No one noms can understand. Cue the fun, forget the plan. Through the gate, around the back. Not the wrong side on the tracks. I'm in boots, dressed all in black. Can't wait till a band attacks. Let's go! I wanna go! Let's go!
Next time you make a record and you're gonna make another one, I want to play guitar in one song.
Down the steps of basement calls. Where Fisher House disgraced Lindall. Just the fuses, hair and walls. Mom and Dad would be appalled. Fuck on trying till you die. Drinking happens just outside. Listen till your senses fry. Now you'll leave the world behind. Let's go! I wanna go! Let's go! I wanna go! You know we're residents. Worldwide, millions, billions. Want the address, ask a punk. All welcome, not the junk. Suits and mohawks, sober drunk. Good times, you just slam and dunk. Let's go! I wanna go! Let's go! I wanna go! You know we're residents. Worldwide, millions, billions.
Awesome. It's just shut up. It
Well,
sounds
we
great.
played in towns right across this land. Driving with the kids,
Kind of,
enjoy the band.
Cool. It's actually, now that I think about it, it's cool that this is all about Southern Canada.
Right?
Yeah.